Ever since season 2 of The Walking Dead, I've always wondered, could you actually survive a zombie apocalypse on a farm? Because it sounds like the ultimate zombie paradise compared to being stuck in a city. They have renewable food, water, shelter, wide open land, and tend to be out in rural areas. But is it really all that great, or just a buffet with a fence around it? Today we're going to find out. But before we get into the thick of it, let's set the stage. Today we're dealing with classic walkers. Not sprinters, just your good old-fashioned shambler. And remember, every farm is different. Some are sprawling commercial operations with grain silos and heavy machinery, while others are little family plots with goats, a garden, some chickens, and a rusty pickup. I can't cover every single version, so what you're getting here is the broad picture of what most farms might look like when the dead come knocking. As for how you ended up here, you didn't roll up in a convoy and claim the farm like it was in some survival manual. You were already here when the outbreak hit. Maybe you were fixing a fence, maybe you were visiting family, maybe you're just in the wrong place at the wrong time, or maybe you actually live on the farm. Either way, society collapsed and you're surrounded by barns, fields, and silos. With the world burning around you, your only option is to squeeze every ounce of survival out of this place. Now let's break it down, starting with the pros. Let's kick things off with your initial supplies, because when the outbreak begins, most people start with a fraction of what you have access to. On a farm, you have a huge head start. Bags of seeds, barrels of animal feed, tools scattered through the barns, and canned goods in the kitchen. Even rope, nails, tarps, and lumber are all lying around. In a world where desperate survivors will ransack every store and house in days, that initial cushion of supplies on a farm buys you precious time to figure out your next move. And once you've accounted for what's lying around, you'll naturally think about the most obvious food sources. On a farm, you've got food walking, clucking, and mooing all around you. A hen can give you 4 to 6 eggs a week when fed, a dairy goat pumps out 1 to 2 quarters a day in season, and a single broiler chicken can net you 3 to 5 pounds of meat. Cows step it up even further, with decent dairy cows producing 2 to 3 gallons of milk a day if you can keep her fed. Pigs are walking refrigerators, packing hundreds of pounds of meat plus fat you can render into lard for cooking when you need it. Sheep earn their keep with both meat and about half a gallon of milk daily in season, which can be turned into cheese or yogurt. And if you have access to rabbits, they're easy to breed and quick to mature. It can be a renewable source of lean protein. And here's a fun fact about eating too much rabbit. There's something called rabbit starvation. It's one of those quirky survival tidbits shared by outdoor folks. Trappers in frontier Canada sometimes ate themselves to death by feasting on rabbit meat, even while their stomachs were full, because their bodies desperately needed fat and carbs. Basically, only eating rabbit could actually cause death from malnutrition, even if your belly's full. It's kinda crazy if you think about it. Anyway, if you're a skilled enough butcher or just desperate enough, every animal on the property is a calorie source. It's a lot of work, but it beats starving to death. Out here, you're worlds apart from someone in a city fighting a zombie for a stale loaf of bread. Now let's move on to the property itself. Because the real jackpot might be the dirt under your feet. Arable soil is the difference between dying hungry and building a future long term. You can grow potatoes in about 90 to 120 days and store it for 3 to 6 months if cured. Dry beans take around 90 to 100 days and store for a year once fully dried. Field corn takes about 100 to 120 days and stores for years when dried and sealed. Winter squash needs about 80 to 110 days and stores for 3 to 6 months in a cool, dry place. Assuming you know what you're doing, you'd be set for a long time here. And in a zombie apocalypse, this is like winning the lottery. It's hard to get that kind of food stability when the world's gone to hell. And of course, crops don't grow without water. Most farms have wells, ponds, and creeks running through the land. That's liquid gold when the taps in the city stop flowing. Even the waste system works in your favor. Septic tanks and composting toilets mean you're not wading through sewage like survivors crammed into a city shelter. Clean water and sanitation keep you alive longer than any weapon ever will. Unless you get swarmed by zombies and torn to pieces, then water and sanitation won't keep you alive that long. Now let's talk about power, because food and water won't mean much if you end up freezing to death in winter. Unlike apartments or suburban houses, farms already run on multiple energy options. Propane tanks for cooking, backup generators, fireplaces and wood stoves for heat. If you've got a wood lot, you've got renewable firewood for a while, and those wide open fields, perfect for solar panels or even small wind turbines. That makes farms one of the rare places where renewable energy is possible even when the grid goes down. And once you've got your basics covered, it's time to think about threats. Cities trap you with blind corners. Farms do the opposite. A zombie herd can't sneak across a cornfield without you seeing it. You'll spot movement a mile away. Even raiders can't creep up without giving themselves away. In an apocalypse where surprise kills, being able to see danger before it sees you is priceless. Now from here, let's talk about defense. Barns and silos aren't castles, but they're solid, and with some reinforcing, you can turn them into choke points. Funnel zombies through narrow doors, barricade weak spots, and you've got a defensible stronghold. A farmhouse isn't Fort Knox, but it's better than being stuck somewhere in a city. And if the walls weren't enough, you also have access to weapons. Most farms already have guns. Rifles and shotguns are as common as shovels. You can probably expect to find a 22 for small game, or a 12 gauge for close work with buckshot, and a rifle like a 308 Winchester for anything you need to take out from a distance. And even if ammo runs low, farm tools double as melee weapons. A sledgehammer doesn't need reloading. A pitchfork can work as well as a spear. And if you're really desperate, a tractor doesn't care if it's plowing a field or mowing down a bunch of zombies. Speaking of tractors, ATVs and pickup trucks, they're not just for hauling hay. They let you move supplies, tow barricades, or crush obstacles. In a pinch, you can weaponize them. Few survival spots give you vehicles this rugged and versatile already on site. But to keep this all running, you'll need maintenance. Almost every farm has a shed or a workshop stuffed with tools, hardware, and spare parts. We're talking welding gear, drills, hammers. It's like having a built-in hardware store during the apocalypse. That means you can repair broken gear, maintain equipment, or even build makeshift weapons and defense without having to risk scavenging runs. Now let's take a step back and think about the bigger picture. Rural neighbors tend to be more self-reliant. Hunters, mechanics, gardeners. If you're lucky enough to form an alliance, you can pool skills and resources. One farm alone is strong. A cluster of farms working together, that turns you into a community of survivalists, and zombies won't be the only ones scared to approach. And if you're wondering about zombies early on, here's something in your favor. The outbreak hits hardest in cities. Millions packed shoulder to shoulder, all turning into zombies at once. Out here, fewer people means fewer zombies at the start. Rural counties often sit under 50 people per square mile versus thousands in the city. That means the first week brings drifters, not floods. And drifters you can manage. That breathing room gives you time to get organized, while city folk are drowning in teeth and claws. Now let's talk about something people don't always think about. In cities, when the toilet stops flushing, the disease spreads. On a farm, septic tanks and compost setups mean you can keep things sanitary. Add livestock and manure into the mix, and suddenly your waste problems become fertilizer. It might be gross to some people, but it works. And since we're talking about keeping yourself safe, let's look at how the land works against ambushes. Wide open land doesn't just help you see zombies. It prevents raiders from pulling ambushes. No hiding behind dumpsters or waiting in alleyways. Out here, anyone coming for you has to cross open ground, which makes them easy to target. Now let's talk about foraging. When the crops fail or you need variety, the woods and rivers give you options. Deer, rabbits, squirrels, fish, berries, and nuts all add backup calories when the farm output dips. It's not enough on its own, but it'll supplement your diet. And of course, land means material too. A wood lot is more than trees. It's renewable lumber for repair, fuel for fire, and raw material for tools. In an apocalypse where everything breaks down, being able to repair your own gear is a lifesaver. Now let's touch on livestock again. Chickens, goats, rabbits. If you manage breeding pairs, you don't just eat once. You get a renewable protein source that can last indefinitely. Eggs and milk supplement your diet without killing the animal outright, and breeding keeps the cycle going. Now let's close off the pros with some old school tricks. Some farms still have root cellars or smokehouses. These old school systems keep food edible long after refrigeration dies. Salted pork, smoked meat, jars of pickled vegetables. These aren't luxuries, they're survival extensions. It all sounds pretty good so far. But let's talk about why this place may not be exactly what you think it is. Here's the brutal truth about commercial farms. They don't have stockpiles. Things like grain, milk, and meat, it's all shipped out fast to maintain freshness and meet market demands. Family farms may hold limited supplies, but don't generally have the capacity or need to stockpile significant amounts. So if you thought you'd find barns overflowing with food, you're in for a rude awakening. You might as well be defending empty fields. And even if you did luck out into a family farm with some supplies, the real killer comes next. Even with fertile land, crops take months to grow, but your pantry will likely run dry in weeks. That deadly stretch between running out of stored food and waiting for the first harvest is what kills most groups. Starvation is just as deadly as zombies. But what about the livestock? Think of it this way. Eggs and milk are a side dish, not the main course. They provide a few thousand calories a day, but a working group burns through tens of thousands. Every single day you're running a massive calorie deficit, draining your pantry to survive. The animals don't eliminate that gap, they just slow the bleeding until the harvest arrives. And yes, to make a farm work you would need a group. It'd be next to impossible to run and secure this entire place on your own. That being said, if hunger doesn't kill you, the human element might. The same reason you thought of hiding on a farm, everyone else does too. Hungry neighbors, desperate wanderers, raiders with guns, they'll all come knocking. A farm screams resources. You're not hidden out here, you're advertising. So remember, rural doesn't mean isolated. Small towns, villages, feeder roads, all nearby. They funnel survivors and zombies alike straight to your location. The slow trickle becomes a steady stream, and one day the herd shows up at your door. Now let's look at one of your farm's biggest crutches, electricity. Electric pumps for wells, freezers full of meat, lights and equipment, all useless when the power goes. Freezers thaw, food rots, pumps stop. The more you relied on electricity, the harder the fall when it disappears. And while you're struggling with power, exposure makes things worse. Farming means hours in the fields. That makes you a glowing target for raiders with rifles or zombies wandering from the tree line. One bad moment of exposure and you're done. And those animals you thought were your salvation, they cut both ways. Sure, they feed you, but they also betray you. Cows bellow, goats scream, roosters crow. All the noise draws zombies or people nearby. And without feed or vet care long term, those animals are at risk of dying sooner or later, leaving you with rotting corpses instead of dinner. Now let's dig into the land itself. Modern farming leans into synthetic fertilizer. Without them, your soil loses nutrients. Yield shrink every season until you're breaking your back for a handful of grain. Now let's touch on water. Wells are lifelines, but they're also single points of failure. If the electric pump breaks, the wells run dry. Or if a raider poisons the source, you're in serious trouble. Hell, it's even possible that a zombie falls into your well, and now you're drinking zombie soup. Without reliable water, your farm isn't a fortress, it's a trap. One failure here and the rest of your systems collapse right behind it. Now what about those loud generators? Generators seem like a solution, but they're a beacon of death. Loud enough to call zombies for miles, hungry for fuel you can't replace, and prone to breakdowns. They're false hope wrapped in a fuel tank. Now let's address the illusion of safety. Fences keep cattle in, not zombies out. They slow the dead, but a herd will push through eventually. And open fields leave you with zero cover when the fight starts. And as if this wasn't bad enough, fire is another killer. Barns stuffed with hay and dry wood are tinderboxes. A single Molotov or lightning strike, and your so-called fortress becomes inferno. From there, let's talk about sound. Every gunshot, every chainsaw, every barking dog is an invitation. Zombies don't care what made the noise, just that it's there, and ammo doesn't grow back. Every trigger pull makes you weaker long term, and the better you do, the more you attract the wrong crowd. A thriving farm is like waving a steak in front of starving wolves. The more you produce, the more desirable you are to raiders. Succeeding in the apocalypse doesn't protect you, it paints a bigger target on your back. Now let's get into skills. Farming without modern support takes a terrifying range of skills. Vet work, mechanics, crop science, pest control, seed saving, butchering, even tanning hides. Miss one skill and the whole system collapses. This is why it's easy to fail on a farm. Now let's talk about your sight lines, because they don't just benefit you, they also benefit the enemy. Open fields let you see danger, but they also let raiders see you. They can sit on a ridge, watch you return for days, and plan the perfect strike. And nature itself can betray you. Nature doesn't care if it's the apocalypse. Locusts, beetles, fungal blight, they'll wipe out a season of crops in weeks. Without pesticides, you're helpless when the swarm arrives. But things get a lot worse. When your machines break down, good luck. Tractors and ATVs look immortal until they're not. Without spare parts or lubricants, they die. And when they do, they become useless monuments of the old world. And running a farm alone isn't an option. You need at least 6 to 10 people, but every set of extra hands is another mouth to feed and another risk of betrayal. Now it's time to answer the question you came here for. But the truth is, giving a farm a single short and long-term rating is hard, because its values change drastically over time. What begins as a paradise slowly starves you. And only if you're incredibly skilled and lucky does it turn into Eden. So instead of our usual short and long-term score, let's rate the farm in 3 parts. Short-term survival, first 30 days. I'm gonna rate it a 4.5 out of 5. A farm is one of the absolute best starting locations in a zombie apocalypse. The initial advantages are so overwhelming that they border on easy mode compared to almost any other environment. The immediate supplies and food sources give you a major head start. The lower initial zombie density, the access to existing tools, weapons, and shelter provide a safety buffer, the early warning system from open sightlines is a bonus, and the multiple backup systems for water, food, and energy are a huge win. The only thing keeping it from a perfect 5-star rating is that it's still an obvious target that will draw attention. And the moment the grid fails, your freezers thaw and electric pumps stop, which is a major immediate problem you have to solve. Medium-term survival, 3+ months. I'm gonna rate it at 2 out of 5. This is where the dream starts to die. The period after the initial supplies dwindle and before your first harvest. This is where the farm becomes a fragile house of cards where one failure can cause the entire structure to collapse. By now, raiders and desperate survivors have more than likely caught wind of your farm. The more successful you are, the more you advertise your existence to desperate and dangerous people. Eventually, the threat from the living will exceed the threat from the dead. Right about now, your pantry will also be empty. The massive calorie deficit becomes a daily reality. You're entirely dependent on the meager return from eggs, milk, and foraging. Every decision is life or death. Do you eat the seed corn? Do you slaughter your breeding pair of goats? This is when morale breaks down and groups start to fail. People will start to turn on each other and disagree. Between now and your first harvest, you're extremely likely to lose people. Long term, 1 year plus. Now, if you survive this long, your rating climbs to a 3 out of 5. But the name of the game is no longer survival, it's defense. The specter of starvation is gone, but it's been replaced by the shadow of a sniper's scope. Your successful harvest isn't a secret. It's a beacon. The smoke from your chimney smells of livestock. The sight of green fields, the clucking of chickens, all of it is an advertisement for every starving, desperate, and violent group for 50 miles. You're no longer just fighting zombies. You're fighting humanity's will to live. And a desperate person with nothing left to lose is the most dangerous thing you'll encounter during a zombie apocalypse. And if the raiders don't get you, the slow grind will. This is where long-term cons come to roost. The soil gets thinner every year. The tractors break parts you can't replace. A blight wipes out your potato crop. A single bad winter kills your breeding pair of goats. Life is no longer a desperate scramble. It's a tense, grinding war of attrition against both man and nature. You're better off than almost anyone else alive, but you will never, ever feel safe again. Alright guys, if you made it this far, I appreciate you as always, and if you liked the video, consider giving it a thumbs up and leaving me a comment, and YouTube thinks you'll like this video. But if you've already seen it, I've got a playlist right here of a lot more just like it.